We good? I think we're okay. I think we're right. Okay. Hi. Who have we got in the chat? We've got Cool Dahlia, Patty Petronil Martin, Vijandra V, Leo Piano Channel, Leila 1957, Glengard, and Chin Chin Jung, as well as Gladys Beatriz Orfano. Hello everyone. How's it going? You good? Been taking care of yourselves? Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to a live stream today. It is an album review of an album from an act named Hua Chen Yu. As I understand it, titled Tipping Point. If we switch over to here, we have ourselves the album on the screen on Spotify. We have all 10 tracks here. Got the album art here. A lot of you guys voted for us to check out this latest album as part of the 15K subscriber thing. Hello. So lots of people from Argentina and the United States and France, all sorts. I know for some of you it is late, and I appreciate you coming along to be a part of it. I will try not to fluff around too much. But yeah, we will listen through this track today, or this album today, all 10 tracks. Now, granted, I do not know what these songs are about. If I check out the lyrics for them, we got Germany as well, crazy. So all over the world. So this is really cool. I don't know what these tracks are about, so if any of you understand what they are about, that'd be great if you could please just explain, even just a brief sort of like little thing to fill me in. But I will review the music and the vocals. I'll review the vocals and the music as best I can. I'll just give it another minute or two just for people to come in if they want to be a part of it. If they don't, that's totally fine. But it just, sometimes if you start the stream immediately, people need just a couple of minutes. Do you all have a favorite song off of the album? Because when was this released? This was released 9 days ago. So that wasn't too long ago. Not too long ago at all. Ah, okay. Thank you. Ah, okay, right. So what we'll do, is that the actual title of it in totality? Because I can just update that if that's the case. No worries at all. At all. So you'll see this here. See that? Tipping point. And what I can do now, I think, is I can get this to still show the art on the screen whilst also showing the chat. There you go. So is that the name of the album? Quantitative Change Tipping Point? Yeah. Yeah. There we go. So that's cool. We got it. So that's Quantitative Change Tipping Point. So I'll just update that really quickly. Thank you to Vijandra V for that. It's always good to have help. And we'll just make that just and go over here. There we are. So that's there. That's there. And then we will update the title of the live stream so that we have that there. And then we should be good to go, I think, to get started on this. So you're live streaming, and then we go edit. There we go. There we are. So, yeah. In fact, what I can even do is even change this. Hang on, you guys can see that, can't you? You can see my phone stuff. That's not good. There we go. Put the album back on there for you. Just making a new thumbnail now, so that's all good. Luckily the phone stuff's so small on the screen, but still, yeah. You guys feel free just to have a chat while I do this. Yeah, okay. Probably a bit smaller, I think. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll put that deck there. Sea of Wind. Yeah. I'm just getting stuff sorted. And then we're gonna put that to 68. There we go. Album. Now that won't fit, will it? So that's 64. And then that can be 64. And that should fit everything. And then that's how do you spell quantitative change? Here. Yeah, quantitative change. There we go. That's how you spell quantitative. And then that can be, we can make that 66. And then we can make that 66. Cool. Sweet. So just going to change the thumbnail now. And then we should be good to go. And yeah, we can get started. Yes. And hopefully people looking at that subtitle or that thumbnail. Hang on. What's that? Oh, okay. Stream status is poor. Oh, okay, sweet. That's fine. So what we'll do is we will video how do I do this? Can I how do I do this? It's been difficult. Says this stream quality isn't very good. Okay, so what if we just I wish that you could like change the subtitles in like real time, but you can't. Okay, I'm gonna have to I'll be right back. Hi. We good? We got an excellent connection apparently. We're having no issues. Cool. So I just had to change my resolution to 1080p because I think what was happening is that I was just having issues with ultra low latency, which is a problem, but it's what it is. Anyways, cool. We're ready to go. Are you guys ready to get started with this? Ready to sort of get stuck into it? We'll switch to here. Just in case you've just got into the room, we're going to be reviewing this album from an act named Hua Chen Yu, titled Quantitative Change. Tipping Point. It is their 6th album, as I understand it. We're going to be listening through tracks 1 through 10. I think Chen Jung mentioned the first track is called Sea of Wind, And the second track is called From Ordinary to Extraordinary Knife. Now I do have the titles. Like I have the titles translated. I've got like a thing over here which kind of gives me the titles of it. That's part of why I called the album Tipping Point. Oh, I know. Picture of Frozen here. Is it an issue here? Okay. So I'm checking the live feed. It's looking okay on my end. Yeah. Yeah, sorry guys. Yeah, I had to just because apparently there was an issue with the live stream or the image or something like that, and it just wasn't coming through clearly. So I apologize for that. Yay, that's good. So everyone can see me. No one's having issues. We're all good to go. Yeah. If it is stuck, feel free to just change the refresh the page. Cool. I think probably waiting a little bit was good because it allowed people to sort of like come in and sort of like do what they need to do in regards to getting stuff handled there. I think that's fine. I think that's fine. I think. Yay! Awesome. Sweet. Okay. So if we're ready to go, what we're gonna do is we are just going to get into the videos, I suppose. Again, or into the songs. The first track, titled, if I'm not mistaken, Sea of Wind. Yep, let's do it. So track number 1, Sea of Wind off the Tipping Point album. Let's go. And then I know that you guys are probably super keen for me to like read through the lyrics and translate them and get the hang of them from that. I would just really appreciate if you tell me what you think the track's about. Because even if like I have a translation of it, I can't guarantee that I'll get the literal meaning of it because there's lots of like context that I don't know about the person. So if you guys can help me figure out what the track's about, then we can just kind of go off of that. Okay? Sweet. Track number 1. I mean, it's great to come back to... It's very busy with those guitar parts.
住小小风车和放肆的梦。你相信保管我不肆意的念头，秘密从不会对谁泄露。平凡中寻得我，拥抱你的温柔，躲在你怀抱，只顾向前走，却看不到尽头。你该有多辽阔。
Interesting use of sound design with the vocals on the left and the woodwind on the right, or the strings on the right. The way that he rises into his higher range in that passage is really elegant. What I like about it is you can hear the shore. Like this is called what is the song called? It's called Sea of Wind, or the ocean, and you can hear the sound of the waves, almost like the vocal parts in the background are the waves. And you've got those cute little bells there that are add a certain innocence to it. So this was, yeah, Sea of Wind. Hua wrote this song after doing a full year of concert tours and really feeling the bond between him and his fans, the Martians. This is a song about pure love, love without attachment. Oh, wave windmills, kind of like the waves in the ocean, right? He said he purposefully recorded this album with quite dry vocals without as much reverb used in the past. I would agree with that. So we understand what the track is about. Thank you to Love from Mars, Cool Dahlia, etc. You know, like Michelle Franklin for the input so far, as well as everyone else. With that story in mind, does it sound like that? I think the vocal performance is so gentle. There isn't as much reverb on his main takes, and it's a rather conservative performance from Hua Chen Yu in this one. But I think that that's a good decision. I feel like if you had over-articulated in a track like this with everything that was going on in those very subtle sub-layers, it just would have been a little bit too busy. There was movement in those hook sections, and it was really the rhythm of it, da 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 ba da, like the way that he kind of navigates that is really cool. There's some really great ideas there, and we are really effective in the key signature and scale, with like a kind of a soft and breathiness there that never has a harsh edge to it. I feel like that was sensible on that part, and the backing vocals, they do have reverbs and filters to them, but they're meant to be a bit in the background, so you kind of would expect that to be treated like that. So that's cool. I mean, the vocals here are really well handled. I think that the harmonies that we have in certain bits as well emphasize it nicely. But it's just listening to certain parts of it with some of the synth sequences, delay, the reverbs on those, the guitar takes with the really interesting arpeggios. We are allowing ourselves to go beyond the majors and minors traditional, and allowing ourselves to kind of mess around with some interesting sort of almost chromatic root note transitions at times, just to move between chords a little bit more fancily. It's a very lush sounding mix, again, with the layer of those guitars and the synths. But then you've also got these sort of looped takes on the sides there that kind of feed back into each other, and it's kind of gorgeous. There's a lot of mid to high range resonance in this track that sounds very pretty. And I think we're trying to couple that with the way that we express ourselves on the mic. With the vocals, with the guitars continuing with their frame and way of moving forward there, the bass line being relatively subtle but sticking to those root notes there. But they also explore a little bit. The bass guitar does explore a little bit. It doesn't just stick to the root notes. Actually, it does, when it's got space to do it and almost call and respond, it does. So there'll be a movement within the first few notes of the triad or something like that. And it just kind of, you've got these incredible, almost like wave, like kind of like tails on that snare drum alone. Just that individual hit just has so much power to it because of the way it's been produced. It's those little things which kind of, again, connect to the ocean aesthetic that we're trying to sort of implicate. And we know how to do those little kind of trills on the drums there. Like the drums weren't as dominant in this one, though. I mean, I think this track percussively, a lot of the rhythmic inference was from, again, those guitar parts, the loops on the side there. But there's so much space as well to allow things to float. So again, I think that it's very competent in regards. It's a very slow song. It's not trying to pace itself forward. It's trying to get you into the environment that it's trying to create. But I think that we had some vocals on this side at some point, and we had like a kind of very kind of throaty sound on the other, and we bring the strings in full force in that sort of later section. And effectively what we've got is a song where we have the slow development that just kind of gracefully elevates. And near the end, you have that reiteration of the theme with those different layers. And it's just, you realize that we're in flight at that point. We come back at the end, the waves fade out like that. It's very soothing. But we've had a lot of what Hua Chen Yu was wanting to accomplish within that time, so there's really no complaints at all. So I feel like it's a track where we held back to allow movement and room for other instruments. And thematically, I just think it was meant to sort of build on a sense of positivity and vibrancy that is instantiated from some of the brighter early layers in the start of the track. So we never lose sight of that. Sticking with major chords and triads, occasional extensions or chromatics, but no harsh edges, and everything in there. There's not meant to be any sort of like hard parts to it at all. The studio recording, mixing, and mastering is tight there. You can hear everything within the arrangement. It's commercial grade, as you'd expect from someone at Hua Chen Yu's level. And the way things are either filtered with the reverbs, the delays, or the kind of effects chains on it, or they are dry like the main vocals, is tight. It contrasts neatly. Dynamic range. No complaints at all. Nice and loud. Great start. So that is the first track. That was Sea of Wind. I think it's a really great start to proceedings. You're welcome, Leo Piano Channel. Absolutely welcome. It's good to listen to this music. Yes, it's Hua. It's Hua Chen Yu. We are listening to Hua Chen Yu today. That was the first track titled Sea of Wind. The second track, according to the page I have, is Extraordinary Ordinary Life. And remember, if there's something you'd like to try to tell me about this track, or if you'd like to help me figure out what the song is about, more than happy to. If you just put that in the chat, that'll be great. But Shredders, we've got number 2. So let's do track number 2 now, yeah? That was cool. That little da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's just that's that flicker of, oh, we could have some kind of spicy stuff within it, you know? Oh, that bass line is sick, man. The drums are night and day between this track and the previous one. Hello, Iris. Hello. Hello.
如果每一个人注定要衰老，还不如留给花园多几顺色彩，告诉聪明
I love how everything goes up with him.
思考，再保有这份热烈，多几个时代，不同道不同的人，哭着笑着的人，给自己一个拥抱。
And back to that motif. Are the drums in Hua Chen Yu's tracks usually this busy? It's incredibly intricate with not only the bass, but also the bass. It's incredibly spicy, isn't it? And it's kind of thing. And thanks to Cool Dahlia for the super chat. The super thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, really cool song so far.
天生不会飞的鸟，若努力积攒羽毛，是否就能爱上风暴？当天空伸手就碰到，没有人低头祈祷，那你会知道。
Is that a banjo in there?
行走更重要。世界很长，你别太胡闹了，别花草，晒月光也好，我想知道，蝴蝶柔软的衣袖，到底曾看过多美的梦？如果每一个人注定要衰老。
Offbeat accents.
留给花园多几顺色彩，告诉聪明的人本一些思考，再保有这份热烈，多几个时代，不同道不同的人，哭着笑着的人，给自己一个拥抱。 那时的天空多气派，那么开阔，那么纯净，幻想追的美好，抽屉一眨眼就变形，让拨云彩，多少我还活在人群外，会不会有不同的精彩，跟随蝴蝶的飞行，我也能抓住流星，装上了眼睛，也会目视着光明，偶遇到水星，我们都去过高空深空。如果每个人注定要衰老，还不如留给花园多几顺色彩，告诉聪明的人本一些思考，再保有这份热烈，多几个时代，不同道不同的人。
Great use of glissando on the keys there.
眼泪别流出眼角。
All right, so let's talk about the song here, Extraordinary Ordinary Life. We had Hua always debated the question of whether life is most fulfilling if you live an ordinary life to its fullest or an extraordinary life doing great things. He still doesn't have an answer. So he decided to write two versions of the song with completely different arrangements and lyrics. No, I think that's a great idea. So part of why I think this track works so well is that it's such a contrast to the previous song. There is just constant, like a pulse, more of an active energy to this one for many different reasons. I think vocally what's really cool about this is not just the fact that we continue with our solid vocal technique and our hidden chest voice, a bit more intensity to this, a bit more kind of like less breathy with some of our parts here. But it's also the rapping that we have in the later stages. I didn't comment on it at the time because I wanted to let it play out. But the rapping that we have there, the flow works well with the 16th note, almost swingish kind of stuff we've got going on with parts of the drums and everything like that. I think it's really great. So when you consider the variety of different ways we are handling things on the mic here, but still being the focal point, I think it's just really clever stuff. So again, like another strong choice here with clear hook lines. but also knowing to sort of like have variety in there to keep things fresh. If we go back a little bit, but then we just have wah, 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 wah. So we have that almost like guitar or that sort of key or synth line there. And then what we do is we have that bass line sort of call and respond by having the just kind of like playing a little lick on that. And the bass does not sleep in this track. The bass is consistently moving between different patterns and motifs and melodies. It sticks with the root notes and it sticks with the chords and the root notes of those and doesn't do anything too ridiculous. But it maintains a sense of sort of like core funkiness there in part because it's also being given so much real estate by just how frenetic the drums are. The drums in this track, so many 16th note fills, so many different sort of like chop ideas like fill transitions there. Very comfortable whether we're working with the rides, the on-beat hi-hats or the off-beat open hi-hats and stuff like that. Just so many cute little fun implementations there that elevate the track as well as the bass. And you have the keys as well, maintaining a sense of jazziness and sort of funkiness with the use of extensions and the chord triads when they need to, exploring certain sort of chromaticisms we need to outside it, but keeping the fundamentals in check. But then we also have banjos, and it's like the banjos are just such a kind of tight tone that is even more sort of precise and succinct than some of the other bass parts, even with the quality of playing we have there. So it's like, okay, it's just fun. It's just exciting. Okay. And we continue with the strings as well. They elevate the song as well, working alongside a lot of the ideas that the keys put forward there, a more sort of like consistent sort of tone as opposed to some of the more sort of like staccato bass and drum bits. But then you just like, there's all these little intricacies and little fun parts, even with like the guitar there, working with hammer-ons and pull-offs, having the bar chords and everything like that come in and sort of like keeping a single coil freshness to it that just grows. And I think, but then like the chorus, da ba 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 bum, and it just we have even that interlude section with the bass solo there walking alongside. It's like it's an electric bass because it's doing that type of style of walking along the root notes of the chords between the parts. It sounds jazzy even when it's sort of trying to be sort of more sort of contemporary and poppy as well. And there's even some brass, I think, in some bits there as well, where like you can hear a kind of throatiness to it, but it's more subtle. We're not trying to have too many different instruments be too present, but we're also trying to fill it up in a way that does make it seem quite remarkable. And so when I listen to a track like this, I hear someone who is trying to make music that sounds incredibly... It sounds like they're trying to make an extraordinary song to almost celebrate the fact that they can choose which life they want to live. And I adore that. I think the fun use of different instruments like the banjo, the brass on top with that glow there with the strings, like so many different things, sort of illustrating how complex life is as a concept. But also what it's doing really well is it also sticks to, again, like it has an upbeat, cheery, positive nature with the way the chords go through the different hook parts there. Even in the quieter parts, the swing, the triplet swing of the kicks and the snares and the bassy parts there sort of make you want to nod your head and groove along to it. And so it handles its leg of the woods regardless of what you throw at it. And it never stops being interesting. Again, I think we might be doing a different chapters kind of thing, but that's totally fine. But then it's just like the actual performance is so incredibly tight with the percussion as well. It's not just that Hua Chen Yu can sing and that they can write great music. It's that the actual performance across these different instruments, it's just so incredibly tight. So I'm really happy to have been able to hear this song because I do appreciate what Hua Chen Yu is doing with it. I do like it, and yeah, it's just studio production, recording, mixing, and mastering wise. I think just to roll with the theme, sort of playfully jaunting through life with a sense of whimsy to it, with the playfulness of the different instruments and the chord progressions. You you have studio production that is precise and clear enough for it to sound commercial grade and mature. And again, we don't overcomplicate or overpolish anything. People can just clearly play their instruments. But it is just worth noting that I think that some of the raw aspects just make it a more slice of life kind of approach. And I think it's a great second track to an album. Thank you to Barbara as well. Thank you for the donation. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the super. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the support. So yeah, I am hoping that the rest of these tracks are like this. And you're welcome, Love from Mars. I am here to talk about the music. You all are quite aware. You all are quite aware of what these tracks are about. So if you help me figure out what they're about, I'm happy to tell you about the music, and we can just have a good old chat about this kind of stuff, you know? But it's good times. I like the hippo in the little animation there. He's a very happy little hippo. I can't spin around like that because I'm going to hit my green screen, but I do appreciate it. Good. And you're welcome, Barbara. It's, I honestly, like, I wasn't sure what this album was going to be like going into it, but I think it's very good. Very good. So we have track number 3 now. We have Beauty Yet Revealed to Me. So let's do track number 3 now, okay? Let's continue. And Different again. It is incredibly beautiful. Great use of the Disney-esque kind of strings and marching drums. Oh, that bass note. Does he write these, like, does he write all of it? Is he solely responsible for the production of this? Because if he is writing all of these different parts and combining them, he's incredibly talented. That's mind-blowing that he can do this. Kind of reminds me a bit of like a Michael Jackson kind of thing, you know? Great use of the lead here to bring it up. Sorry, I meant to say great use of lead to bring it up. And the use of harp at the end, man. So this is an incredibly classy second version, I think, as we were explaining up top. Love for Mars. This is the second version of the song I just mentioned. I think I don't know which one I like better. Which one do you guys like better? It's difficult for me to choose. They both got some really cool ideas. So this was, again, actually no, because it's got a different name. Hang on a minute. Let me just move that aside because I'm starting to get confused myself. So this is Beauty Yet Revealed to Me. Beauty Yet Revealed to Me. The third track off of this album from Hua Chen Yu. The vocals, the main difference between this and the previous tracks, they are very similar, as Yola mentioned, is that it is oriented around, I think, not only the softer vocals, especially at the start, there's the kind of restraint until the choir, the extra vocalists come in later in the piece, the ladies with their sort of chanted parts, and it comes together, and it's just that's kind of like the way it sort of crescendos. It just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger before that last chorus, and then Hua comes in, and there's all kind of, it just spreads out in the stereo field. It's just very satisfying, very satisfying. It's a different flavor. And the fact that Hua Chen Yu is able to make these two so distinct whilst having effectively very similar ideas is testament to their creativity, their skill, and talent as a musician. I think this is kind of where I have started to realize why you'll like him so much. Why? Because if he's writing all of his stuff and everyone else is playing it and they're session musicians, this is an incredible amount of proficiency. But just vocally, tremendous. I feel like a lot of my comments about his performance are the same from before, but I feel like it was nice to have a different set of pipes on the mic near the end in that final sector to kind of contrast and maintain interest throughout. So let's talk about what's going on instrumentally in this track. It's 5 minutes, and if you go to the start, I mean, it sounds like a classical composition. And he comes in within the first 20 seconds, but that's kind of what you'd expect. It's a 5-minute piece that just starts with these wonderful, like, what have we got? An entire string section, flutes, a harp as well, because that harp comes in at the start and then it features at the end as well. And it's really cool because you kind of have that closure that comes at the end from an arpeggiating as it does. And you have that continued for quite a while. I remember there being this very distinct bass note that comes in about like the minute mark or something like that. And that's like, oh, we've got some low end. I've got some low end at this point. What's going to happen, But it's very light and fluffy until that point. But just also from a production's perspective, that bass tone is so clean. It is such a clean bass tone. Like, I would love to know what bass guitar that person has. What bass guitar that person has, what mic they have, because that's an exceptional bass tone. And they still continue moving with the bass guitar throughout all the string flurries. And there's ba 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 ba. It's almost like a solo section, except everyone's soloing at the same time. Alternative percussion. And you've got like little bump bump doo doo bump bump doo doo. And those cool responses with the woodwinds is just adorable sounding, a great sense of innocence to it. And it's nice to have the drum kit come in in the last third, but to be clear, you didn't need the drum kit beforehand. A lot of the interesting rhythmic stuff came from a lot of the strings and sort of like the other orchestral elements. And I feel like that is a contrast to the previous track where the drums were so busy, but I think we just really wanted to have a red versus blue situation, and we managed to accomplish that here. And like the chanting juxtaposed as well with the background vocals and the sides that just continue after that transition, and it's just really well thought out. There's just like a lot of effort put into making it sound as full as possible, whilst understanding how to niche it. And at the end, and just those little bells, it's just sounds so much like a movie soundtrack. And again, it contrasts to the second and even more so the first. And it's okay if we want to do like what I call a variety box album, where we've got a lot of different styles and genres included, because I think that if we can write, then we've got it sorted. It may seem like I'm being a little bit generous with my feedback, but it's basically because I feel like it's justified. It's very, very musically competent. What else do I want to say about it? Thematically, I think it's trying to sort of maybe approach a sense of wonderment that is maybe different to the energy and vigor that we might have had in the previous track. It's a little bit sort of mystical, so I kind of think that you are going for one or the other, and I appreciate the fact that it is as beautiful as the title suggests that the mystery could be. It's just too complicated to narrow it down to a specific theme. But also basically, you just got to talk about what the instruments are saying, how that's sounding. And you kind of feel like everyone near the end singing together is celebrating the fact that you get to choose what kind of life you have. The studio recording, mixing, and mastering is a masterstroke. To be able to go between these different styles and capture the instruments like this is incredibly impressive. And I'm very, very satisfied with it. Nothing but love. It's really good. I'm being cautious about actually what I'm saying about this, but it's really exciting. It's just fun. It's like you're getting an advent calendar at Christmas time and you don't know what chocolate you're going to get. Love for Morris says, I love this one just because it's incredibly beautiful and all his fans sing the last part of the song together during his concert. Yeah, I can imagine that would be the case. Absolutely. I can imagine the crowd singing together would be amazing. But there are a lot of haters in China because his stage presence can be exaggerated sometimes, and he's more of a maverick who doesn't compromise to mainstream. I feel like that's an interesting perspective, because I would counter that by saying, why would you want more people to do the same thing? It's like one of the fundamentals of becoming a successful musician is being different. Hua Chen Yu is incredibly effective at branding himself. It's very authentic. It's very different, and that's why it works. And one of the fundamentals of being your own brand is understanding that you need to niche yourself. And you need to have some sort of core anchor point where you don't necessarily compromise on that. And I feel like this is, maybe some people don't like him, but I do. I think Hua Chen Yu is cool. I'm not going to pretend that I love all of his music equally, but there is a lot of really cool music so far, and I really appreciate it. His music is always so interesting to listen to. I love that. I can listen to a song countless times and always find something new. Yeah, especially with this one, I would agree with that. I think that there is a lot to appreciate here. I think he's just been continuing to grow as a musician. I think he's been growing over the time that he's been making his music, and I think that this is just the kind of culmination of that. So really cool. I mean, we've got track number 4 next, but thank you again for your thoughts on the music and album so far. I appreciate being able to listen to it. We've got Eternal Flame, number 4. I vaguely recognize this. Just the tone of that brass, though, it's awesome, dude. Oh, that was fun with the little wow wows. Okay, bass resonance. Nice. Oh, some sort of Arabic kind of like harmonical melodic minor. There's a sense of danger to it, isn't there? I do enjoy the English in here as well. This is fun use of octaves with those synth portamentos. Okay, what are we gonna do here? So that was a very different affair to the previous few tracks we've had, isn't it? Going back to that one was Eternal Flame. Um, so the vocal style is kind of more of similar to what we've had in previous tracks, but not explicitly. There's a bit more sort of aggression to this one, especially in the rapping section where we are sort of trying to sort of like amp the person up, I think. Love for Mara says Hua wrote the song for Peace Elite, an esports league where he is both spokesperson and also a professional level player. That's so he's not only a professional musician, he's also a professional gamer. That's wild. Good on him. That's awesome, dude. Yeah. So I think that with the with that it's kind of it's sort of if we go through the lyrics here, I will fight private side. Don't lose your way. Don't change your mind. Just at least from the English parts, I kind of assume that it's kind of trying to sort of talk about the person's inner locus. They're kind of it's trying to say, look, don't give up. Continue to do the best you can as a team. We're going to get through this eternal flame, etc. Is that the kind of vibe we're going for here? I think so. The way that we sing within those chorus sections, I think is meant to sound grandiose and very kind of, look, this is okay, we'll get through this, but also look how far we've come. It works well with some of the brighter, more sort of like elegant inclusions within that part. We'll go through with sort of like the structure of the track in the moment. But just there's some more distorted, gritty elements here that work well with like the rapping section we have like halfway through the track there, which had a great sense of flow to it. And then like the spoken, like the sung parts near the end here. And you have the kind of the vocal line that Colin responds with those parts there, and it's just kind of great to go backwards and forwards between that. It's very catchy. So, I think that it's we've had rapping before, and it continues in its quality here, and we explore different ways of expressing ourselves in a way where I think it tries to sort of remain somewhat neutral in the parts we aren't rapping. So that's cool. It allows a lot of color for the music. A lot of feel from this track, I think, actually comes from like the start of the point, where you get this kind of Midwestern kind of showdown sound with the brass there, the glow of that, the kind of danger that's trying to, but it's not unlike an aggressive. How do I describe it? I think maybe it's just because I've always associated that bum bum ba da 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 bum bum bum. It's just kind of it's like cowboys going to duel, but in like a game. That's kind of what I'm trying to communicate there. The drums coming into that part have a phenomenal tone, and I really appreciate. I like the fact that they've got that clarity in the mix. The snare has a reverb tail on the end as well, so it just kind of like hovers in the air and kind of glides off, and the kicks are nicely side changed, so whatever's going on there you hear them really clearly. It's time to sort of throw down, the sort of guitar that we have a bit later on, almost sort of like new metalish in its approach there, kind of reminded me a lot of the kind of music that they made for video games in the mid 2000s, and I think that it still works quite well within this style. But there's also these little kind of like, again, harmonica melodic minor parts there with the strings, accenting sort of less of the cowboy stuff we had at the start, and more kind of midway through the battle there, we're kind of starting to get our meter up and not lose focus of what's important. And there were like octave synth parts that went up and down like that, which kind of added a sense of like fluctuation to the approach, almost like, almost sort of like communicating, wonder what the players unsure of themselves or not. It's trying to mirror the experience, I think, of playing the game in musical form, and I think it does that well. I think the synthetic electronic elements make it sound a bit more sort of video game oriented. And it's just like the use of those unison chords in that breakdown part on the guitar there, that flat second resolving is like, it's metal and we're about to throw down, but also it's nothing's too lost, if that makes sense. Wow, it just didn't stop. It just didn't stop auto captioning. That's okay. Hopefully you guys got some of that. I think that it kind of reminds me of some of like Jay Chou's like mid 2000s stuff. To a certain extent. I don't know if it's fair to compare it, but just some of the kind of new metalish kind of drum and sort of like bass oriented stuff. And it's just like little things like the gunshot, and then you have like the modulated vocals, little bits to adjust to kind of keep things interesting. So I mean, like, I feel like it's a well fleshed out track that makes the most of the 5.5 minutes. And then it kind of turns into like a dance track at the end there, sort of making you groove along to the finish. I think, given the track is halftime for most of it, it's kind of great to have that switch up rhythmically as well. The drums are relatively minimalist aside from maybe some different sort of like hi-hat cymbal patterns as sub layers. The bass 808-ish typically. And a lot of the color in the mid to high ranges, the vocals with those synths and the portmanteaus between octaves. Yeah. There's a lot of different chapters within this, but I feel like they're handled well. It's nice to have dynamic range when the strings go into that sort of like harmonic minor bit in the middle, just for things to kind of float there and be a bit more sort of like synthetic. But yeah, genuinely, I think with a track like this, as well as some of the others, you need multiple times through it to sort of really get a kind of gauge on what's going on there without sort of, like pushing it too far. But I am nonetheless thankful to have heard this track from Hua Chen Yu. Thematically, I mean, I mentioned the minor orientation with some of the harder guitar elements there, the rapping style, etc. It does kind of make me feel like we're about to sort of like, we're sort of like giving our team a pep talk before we get into the ring. And I think that everything's consistent throughout that in that respect. I'm wondering if parts of the English would sort of appeal to us like a wider audience, maybe. I'm not sure, but I like the fact there's a closing comment that we do have the strings go at the end, they iterate. So almost like the song loops back into itself, which is really neat. And just, it's like graceful because of that Heinz kind of soaring eagle kind of thing, almost like the wait was worth it. We triumphed. We triumph by continuing. Studio recording, mixing, and mastering is commercial grade, as per the rest of the tracks throughout this album so far. No complaints about that whatsoever. Yeah, really good. So we've got, that's number 4. In esports, every tournament has its own theme. I do believe he composed this for last year's tournament. So I think that's a smart move. I think that having someone capable to do that is good. I feel like it's like unique enough that you could appropriate with the team. And yeah, that's track 4, Eternal Theme. Thank you as well to Michelle for... Thanks for the super. Yeah, cheers for that. I appreciate it. Not sure what else to say about it. I think I've said what I wanted to talk about with that one. Yeah, again, like I go to something and there's so much to absorb. There's so much to absorb within it. You do need multiple listens, but that's my first take on it anyways. We've got track number 5 though. Track number 5, Ship of Theseus. Let's go. Oh, we've heard this one. This was the One Piece one, I think. It's so sweet with those harmonized woodwinds.
不必用数浪花掩饰与君夸诞的赞美，风和蜜酿的酒塞满船舱，自由是结构。而当船员学着赦免暗叫我学着拼凑，那艘行走的船仍旧是我吗？
What I will say is that I think he sounds very close to how he sounds live as he does in the studio. That does translate quite well. And how it trades off to the woodwinds from that vocal melody. It's nice. Great use of Foley there with the storm.
而帆直落向高漂流的人，这并非尽头。那艘斑驳的船已被谁遗忘
？Like, sorry to interrupt. That's just a great way to develop a piece. You have the storm, you have the rain. Often people will include more instruments, but if you can have something else to tell the story alongside it, it just seems a bit more. It's a very unique experience. So it doesn't ever hugely elevate. It's just a gradual rise of the winds. Great use of birds at the end as well for that extra bit of Foley. Awesome! Yeah, no, I've listened to this track before. I think I've seen part of the live streams we do, but I'm glad to be hearing it isolated. This was Ship of Theseus by Hua Chen Yu, the 5th track off the album. So what do we think this song is about? Love from Mars says, if a ship has been sailing at sea for 100 years, parts of its body will need to be gradually replaced over time, until at one point every single part of the ship has been replaced. Can we still say that this ship is still the same ship that set sail 100 years ago? It's a philosophical question regarding change in the human soul. It's an impromptu the song is an impromptu composed by Hua on one of his concerts, and he finished the whole song this year. That's awesome. His fans have learned to sing the female part of the dual melody, so we sing that part together with Hua in a concert. What more can you ask for, right? That's beautiful. That's beautiful stuff. I mean, it's a wonderful song. If it is about that philosophical discussion, I think that the kind of choir voices rolling over each other stuff in the later half of the track makes it seem a little more sort of mysterious and spiritual. So I like that. I like that we aren't being too particularly straightforward with a lot of the vocal ideas and concepts. I think that allows for a bit more of a kind of an otherworldly kind of facet to it. So that's great. And think that when Hua Chen Yu is alone, and they take a while to come in, I think, 'cause they allow the woodwind to sort of mirror that sung part first. To be fair, the Hua Chen Yu would technically be singing what the flutes are doing, but you know what I mean. Um, just the way that we enter and we're so soft, and there's such a tender tone to it. And it really does sort of seem like we are really sitting by ourselves with our own thoughts, trying to sort of figure out whether we are the same person or we are something different. So it's just a cool thing to talk about, anyways. But you've just got these orchestral elements, kind of like track 3 there, but in a way where it's more sort of flute oriented, and the way they kind of intertwine and harmonize like birds, like sort of spinning around each other in the air, is really charming, and it's glorious with the legato feel to it. It's just really pretty, and you also got like the harps as well, which come in a bit later on, and they add this nice sort of like shimmer and sheen to it. Very delicate, tender discussion that we're having that is sort of communicated not only by the vocals but also some of the other parts, trying to sort of sound tonally similar to that. And the fact that it's recorded in a way where you can actually hear the breaths of the person playing the instrument is really cool, because it's like, holy crap, that's just such a close recording, but they managed to get that so clear. I mean, like structurally, you don't have a sort of verse chorus idea here, and I think that's smart, almost through composed. It's great. It's interesting because it just adds further like and a further understanding of why Shinyu does not need to sort of keep himself in a box. And I think that to have the harps and the guitars work together with a great sheen and that high end kind of furthers that upper part there, and I mean, we do eventually, I think, have a cello in that lower section there, but I don't think we ever commit to a full bass and drum kit. And I don't think that moving in a more contemporary direction with this would have been smart. Having the orchestral set up there with those instruments, having the choir work when Hua Chen Yu, as sort of going between the ABC without a contemporary structure. It's just these decisions were made for a cinematic soundtrack, and it's just shows their breadth as a musician. And I think it's just really elegant, pretty piece that I mean, it obeys the fundamentals of music theory and composition. It doesn't overcomplicate with the chromatics. It's probably one of the cleaner, more simple compositions so far, but at the same time, it seems transcendent because of how stuff's layered together. Thematically, I think it's trying to almost communicate not just the pirate sort of at sea theme there. Well, also you got the foley with the rain, and you got like the birds near the end, almost like they've come to their conclusion on an island. What else do you want? What else could you say about it? It's major oriented, but it's done in a way where it doesn't sound like it's happy. It's trying to be something more than that because of the focus on sort of more sort of neutral elements and some of the ways the vocals interlap or overlap. But I think that the panning of stuff, how it widens near the end with the cymbal shimmers and everything like that, and the backing vocals on the side there, it's just another track that kind of builds over time. It is a lovely and deep song. It doesn't overstay its welcome even at 4:49. It's full of life and then things to pay attention to. And yeah, no, that's basically my review of this track of Ship of Theseus, with the understanding that the studio production is also, it's commercial grade. I don't think there's in a single song here where I've been like, why did they produce it like that? A lot of fundamentals are adhered to, but we have Track number 6, though, after Ship of Theseus, with phenomenal dynamic range as well. It was just great to have some points of peace and quiet. It's just testament to a number of positive things. Quirky Psychology. The shortest track on this album at 3 minutes 48. We've also heard the song, but I like it. Great use of the whistle there. Oh, radio. Oh, the guitar in sync with it. Nice. I didn't pick up in the previous part. I'll go back a little bit so you guys can go back into the chorus, but I didn't pick up in my previous listen through that the strings were doing very similar stuff, like arpeggiating, like going up and down like the piano parts were in that point. It's fantastic. It's incredibly difficult stuff to play on either. Really, really clever. And barbershop. Cool. And then you had the cuckoo clock at the end. Nice work. So that was Hua Chen Yu with their track titled Quirky Psychology. So I think vaguely what I remember is this is talking about him sort of Oh no, actually, you guys got it here. So celebrating each person's uniqueness, but even if it's quirky in other people's eyes, just be yourself. Yeah, so I think that the attitude here from Hua Chen Yu kind of mirrors that to a certain extent. He's not trying to be super like well behaved and neat and articulate here, even though he is regardless. But there's a bit of edge to, especially those like that part there where we're kind of da 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 da. It's kind of almost like yeah, I'm not gonna care about what you think of me. I'm gonna be able to get through this regardless. It's just this is cool. It's clear that Hua Chenyu is authoritative and comfortable in who they are, and I understand why that appeals to a lot of people because I feel like everyone deserves to feel okay with who they are. You know, especially considering the history you guys have sort of communicated with Hua Chenyu struggling with the perceptions of others and not fitting into a niche that people would appreciate them to be in, etc. You know, I'm glad that they're comfortable with who they are. I feel like this was more of a traditional kind of like rockish kind of song for sort of focused on the guitar, bass, and drums here. It was nice to have the tick tick of the clock at the start there, almost to sort of go, it's kind of make you wonder why it was there in the first place, almost like the clock is ticking on the person's psyche. And then at the end, you have the clocks, and there's like a cuckoo clock or something like that go ba 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 ba, and you kind of get the impression that he's allowing himself to be a little bit crazy as long as he can be himself. So I think that that's kind of cool Foley wise, but also from a symbolic perspective. I mean, it's very light synth patty parts, but this is actually relatively minimalist in regards to others because, again, just guitar, bass, and drums. Palm muted guitar riffs working between arpeggios of those chords there going from first to third and fifths. The bass line rolling with the root notes of that chord there being sort of very sort of well behaved, and then the drums working with eighth note grooves with closed and open hi-hats, kick, snares. Very comfortable moving into the sort of like crash cymbals and stuff like that with accents as well, but you got the basics. But then what happens is, of course, in that end part, or that near the end part, you have this incredible string and piano section there where it kind of pauses and then Hua Chenyu becomes a lot more operatic with his pipes. And you get that kind of contrast between how he feels like he's supposed to march forward and then himself sort of exposing himself a little bit and being a bit more sort of like vulnerable and tender with a vibrato and beautiful tails and some of those elements. And you've got like stuff like the woodwinds as well, which I'm hearing again on the second listen. The woodwinds sort of like highlighting certain notes that the rhythm section is playing, or you've got those distorted guitars but with like unison bends as well to kind of add the tension okay kind of thing. But that bass response there in these headphones is stunning. It's that warm. I mean, like, to be fair, the strings do come in a little bit later in that interlude section, but just the piano accompaniment working between those notes of the chords present there. With a parallel major as well to sort of add a sense of how would you describe it? A sense of, oh, I've actually realized that I'm okay as I am now. So there's a sense of like gratitude in our own self-awareness that is emphasized by some of those chords that are played on piano on that part. I thought it was a fun idea as well that we talked about, like the little whistles that they have between parts. You had the barbershop thing going up and up and up and up and up. And then suddenly, oh, you have the 1, 2, 3, almost like you're preparing the person that's listening for this for that next step. And oh, we're going back to the hook then. We're going to kind of slam it. And I think that's kind of a fun idea, almost like we're going through the loop again of hearing someone tell you that, no, genuinely, I'm okay with myself and you can't have anything to do with that. So, yep, it's just a clever songwriting. I think this track would have been a good song if it hadn't included that, like, that interlude part, but I feel like it elevated it because it had that massive shift that was just justified itself through the choices. So there are some really good, really interesting stylistic decisions being made by Hua Chenyu and everyone else involved that I think make every song on this album relatively unique. Even the more sort of restrained, kind of more sort of, you know, yeah, you know what I mean. And thank you, Maria. It's good stuff. I've said a lot today. It's just a lot to talk about this kind of music. But yeah, again, it's 3 minutes 48. So I think that you couldn't have asked for more. Well fleshed out structurally. I think that the tone of the guitars mixed with the way that we sing, mixed with the power chord elements there, that kind of calling out when we are more sort of vulnerable, but then sort of like realizing we're more than okay enough as we are, insinuates that the theme is trying to communicate, just to leave me alone, I'm fine, worry about yourself. And the studio recording, mixing, mastering as per usual is commercial grade. I appreciated that sub bass just before the piano section that we had there, just a whomp there, you know, that would be picked up on the finest subwoofers. It's just great sound design. It's not even that it's necessarily helping from a musical perspective, despite being a bit of sort of like blank space, arguably. It's that yeah. It's good. But no complaints. Another really solid track. So this next one, after Quirky Psychology, I think these next four I haven't heard yet. I don't know Warm House track number 7. But I would say before we continue that I think it's a really good idea to be yourself. I agree with this. Really interesting sound design. Just how he That was gorgeous. Rotary verb. Is there a bit of treatment on this part? Fantastic. That tension and release. So this was made by Hua, according to Cordalia. That's kind of wild. That's layers of reverb and delay.
我还记得刻在窗后小小的缺口，也还记得爸爸妈妈亲吻我额头。也许现在不过是梦，宝贝，我们会很快，很快就能再相守。只是失去
Sup, Tanley Chu, welcome to the live stream.
我弄丢了我的枕头。
So from what I've been reading in the chat alongside listening to this track, which is called Warm House by Hua Chen Yu, it's not a particularly happy song. It doesn't seem like a very happy song. This is a song that promotes peace written from a child's perspective. Having a warm house is every child's dream, but often as we grow up, it's hard to find that place that feels like home again. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That, Barbara says, war from a child's point of view. Leo says, there is a line, tireless birds, please don't take everything away. The tireless bird refers to the bomber. Heavy, man. Yeah. And, you know, I feel like if you understood this song, like natively, the language, it would hit like a train. I'm glad that you'll love his music. I feel like this was sung in a way which makes sense for the subject matter. Sup, Hua Masperindo. Hopefully you're doing well today. Welcome to the live stream. What do we think about this track from Hua Chen Yu? Aside from knowing what it means, the vocals here are very tender and intimate, and they are from someone who is, again, it's quiet and it's sort of inviting you to sit with them and hear them out. You can tell when they're crying out in the chorus sections that they really want, they're desperate for things to change. There's points where there is vocal fry as well, and it really does strongly communicate that they are desperate to get out of the situation, for there to be some sort of release or some sort of they just want to find a way to find peace. And so I think that is a beautiful thing, but it also means that for Hua Chen Yu, this is a very difficult, delicate song for them to sing, and I thank them for their ability to be able to put themselves into their own track and make it so believable. Thank you to Leo Piano for the donation. Thank you very much for that. Really appreciate the super. Thank you for that. Glengard says, I don't understand Chinese. It was his way of telling a story with the use of his voice that made me listen to it more. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that that's something that I really appreciate. I don't know if you feel the same way. When there's like a language barrier, but you can listen to the musician and you get what they're saying. Even without knowing what they're saying, if that makes sense. You can just feel the emotion that's pouring out of their veins and their vocal cords. Don't know what it's like for you, but for me personally, if I listen to a song in a different language and they can emote, express, do that kind of thing, it's fantastic. It's sad that they're going through it and that they're writing stuff like this because, you know, it's not great stuff to write a song about in the sense that it's not like happy, happy, joy, joy stuff, and music doesn't need to be happy to be good. So yeah. Beyond that, I feel like the song is just so somber. Just the quiet little, the almost whisperish kind of texture to Hua's voice with the guitar. It's just a very quiet little line there that again almost sounds like they're sitting in a room alone, kind of trying to figure out what's going on. And like those little bits of like those breaks between the different verse stanzas, well, almost like sounding like a child kind of like crying out, if that makes sense. And that's a very visceral thing in the sense that it's like for them to have programmed that in to get that kind of sound, they really wanted you to feel what it was like for the people who didn't have a choice. And there's a bass, but it's very subtle. And the vocal harmonies on top are angelic. It's a very kind sounding song despite the struggle that they're going through. But this is an interesting decision here. This is a really interesting decision here. The way that the guitar, bass, and drums are filtered with this kind of lo-fi tone, almost as if to say that there isn't a lot of brightness in the situation. And almost like there's so much noise around them that they're struggling to cope with their environment. And a lot of the mid to high range resonance, I think, comes from later on when they have the vocals up there and stuff like that. It almost seems like they're being smothered by a carpet or like a cushion or something like that. And like how there's that kind of like filtered guitar tone and then the vocals come out to the side, and it's just really neat because it's a different type of production that is not trying to sound like super polished and pristine. It's just more kind of, I think, trying to be sort of art, and I dig that. This is more of an arty kind of song from Hua Chen Yu, and I think that he emotes, expresses well. The guitar arpeggios and melodies that are there is when they're strummed, and the kind of festering tone of the fuzz is kind of gritty sounding and mirrors the harsh reality of what they're discussing. The bass line and drums with the way they're kind of carpeted is good too. But then you return to that original riff. Almost like things haven't necessarily changed. But that organ though, that organ tone, the way it fluctuates and flutters around the stereo field, is that almost sense of spirituality, trying to find a hope in the sky there is something that's really remarkable. And just the way it just fills out the mix from a post-production perspective is really impressive. But it's a great song. It's a really, really good tune. It's more minimalist, arguably, than some of the other stuff we've had. There's just little choices made that have big consequences in a positive way, such as again the filtering of the guitars and stuff like that. It's clever. And that is a dedicated decision there because of the clarity of everything else. So yeah, I think this was a journey. It was well worth the 5 minutes 41. The studio production was commercial grade. Anything that was meant to sort of sound more lo-fi, anything that was made to sound lo-fi was done so on purpose. It's clear. It's really, really positive. Even though, again, it's a really sad song. And I think everyone wants to find peace. And I think Hua Chen Yu does too. And I think that the support he has from the fans is definitely helping him to find peace with himself, if nothing else. And that's all you can really ask for, I suppose. So yeah, that was track number 7, Warm House. I think everyone's entitled to a warm house as well, but I feel like that's like a non... Of course everyone's entitled to a warm house. Yeah. Solid track. We've got number 8. Just before I go, Leo Piano Channel says there is English translation lyrics online, I believe. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's just good to hear what you guys think about it. I appreciate you filling me in. but it also just kind of it helps if you guys can sort of like fill me in on any sort of like background context and stuff like that. Because I might read it, and then, for example, might not know like the lore of Hua Chen Yu, and that can be good to have backup. And Love from Mara says you're so right about that. The lyrics to refer to a child alone in the room. Yeah, I mean, it's just sound design decisions are so important with music. So yeah, so glad that wasn't far off with that. But we got Never Cross Paths, track number 8. Beautiful natural harmonics. And you're welcome, Mimi. Welcome to the live stream. I love how the guitar takes go around the sides of the stereo field. Kind of sparkles, doesn't it? Great articulation of the bass in the background as well. That was an awesome contrast. I loved just the gentle mid to high range resonance nature of a lot of those little sparkly guitar parts, the bass even going up to the high range, and then just comes down with the guitar, just the chonkiness of the tone with the bass and drums as well. It's just phenomenal, man. Iterating the piano on top of it, that's cool. Great job. You know, this is really cool. I mean, the drummer coming in clutch, right? Excellent. So that was from Hua Chen Yu, track number 8, titled Never Cross Paths. So apparently love from Mars is human growth is a constant process of letting go of past versions of ourselves and embracing new versions. This is a song about confronting your past selves and dealing with the grief that comes with it. Man, that's actually really clever. That's a really clever thing to think about. We are really just different versions of ourselves, aren't we? Hadn't thought about that. That's a cool thing to write a song about. I feel like if you are ready, yeah, exactly. No, I kind of get it because you have this sort of duality within this track of the kind of brighter, more sort of like serene elements there, almost like we're trying to come to peace with that. But then the choruses with this sort of guitar and all the heavier elements are sort of more saying, hey, no, this isn't going to be as easy as you think it is to be able to kind of meet with the past. We're going to have to kind of figure it out together, you know. So, the vocals in this, they go between being sort of very soft and tender with the quieter parts to being more sort of having a lot more oomph in those hook elements there. We're kind of a bit of vocal fry in there. We double track the vocals for a bit more size. You know, it's very, very effective. Leo Piano Channel, I'll be honest with you. I think that his rock stuff is awesome. I would legitimately like him to hear him do some metal at some point. Some metal. I think him doing some metal would be really dope. But we'll see how it goes. It doesn't have to be the kind of like growly, screamy stuff. It could just be like, I don't know, like power metal or something inspirational, you know. Just kind of get him in the zone. But he's making great music and I appreciate this. I think it's a good sort of like combination of more sort of like gentle sort of like more sort of pop, slower stuff versus the harder stuff we've had in previous tracks as well. It like a number 4, but a bit more sort of like bit more sort of intense and quicker than that. But the outside of the vocal style, there we show really competent vocal technique. We're very comfortable in a hidden just voice, etc. We understand how to go between the different styles for effect as well. We have a track which, as I mentioned, it starts with sort of synths and guitar lines, and it's very pretty, and there's no heaviness until, as far as I'm aware, until like even with the bass guitar coming in and having that. Like, even with that bass guitar coming in and having that little solo section before that first chorus, like, you know, it wasn't gonna be anything too sort of, like, rigorous, like kinda to sort of weigh you down until the distorted guitar comes in, and there's no fuzz. It's just heavy, sort of chonky stuff going on there, and what's so great about it is that it hits like a train because there hasn't been a lot in that low end happening until that point. The guitar parts are power chordal elements in the distorted section. We don't complicate it too much. There might be add nines, I'm not sure, but either way, it's really cool. The drums do half time because we're going through a difficult situation where we feel sort of immobilized. And what is kind of cool is that in that last chorus, he does do normal time, and it's just a super easy, effective way to switch things up in that final quarter. It's just a no-brainer, you know? It's wonderfully developed with adding different instrumental layers at a time whilst keeping in a similar part of the frequency spectrum. And you have those little synth guns going back around the stereo field there for atmosphere. And it's like, whoa, what's going to happen next? It's sparkly little starry things going on, and then, doo. And of course, the drums continue. And like, there are some incredible drum fills. We not only stick with the cymbals, the kicks, hi-hats, etc., the fundamentals of the rock genre, but we have these triplet 16th fills there, which kind of go da-da-da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum, and it's not as complicated as like the second track off the album, which is Extraordinary in Life. But I don't think the focus of this is to kind of have a drum solo in the middle of it. It's meant to sort of like kind of push and pull between trying to find peace and having to deal with the discomfort in order to have change. And it's like a really tight mix at the end, but what I appreciate is having those clean guitar parts. I think it might have arguably been a bit too much for the people involved to have had like a distorted lead guitar on top of the lead riffs and stuff like that. I'm not sure, but either way, it's a nice, pretty sort of like, it's actually a really slick tone that ties the start back to the end, if that makes sense. There's various aspects of it, like with track number 4 as well, where we have those strings kind of mirroring stuff at the end. But yeah, no, compositionally very well fleshed out, no filler. You know, you can seamless transitions between parts, stuff makes sense. We don't rush, we don't overcomplicate. Thematically, again, it's a tale of two halves, as I mentioned several times here, and musically, harmonically, there with the focus in certain parts of the frequency spectrum, as well as again, like combining them at the end, almost like both sides have come together for a third angle. Studio recording, mixing, and mastering is tight as per usual. Again, you can hear everything nice and clearly in the mix. It's pushed at the end, but in the way that makes it heavy. Hua Chen Yu's vocals are present regardless. The guitars have a great tone to them, and you can tell they're really committing to that specific style for that bit. And yeah, the bass, keys, synth, etc. You know, they know what they're doing on the disc, and it's still not overproduced or overpolished. But they do heavily contrast the effects change of everything outside of the mains. Unless they're not with the lo-fi stuff that we had in the previous track. But anyways, it's a really cool song that is refreshing and I like. I agree, Barbara. I think he has a great middle voice. So I hope that he does more like that. But anyways, it's great for now. I feel like I kind of have that song under my wing. We have track number 9, Human's Love. You can tell he's not playing to a click, and I like that. Are there little string plucks in the background, in the low end? Oh, it's a piano. Would recommend listening through this with headphones if you haven't already. There's some great sound design within it. Oh, the waltz. Ah, fantastic. All right. I'm returning to the piano motif. Interesting note to finish on with a little boom. It's kind of a fun one to finish on in a sense because it's not resolving harmonically. It's not. It's leaving you on a sort of like a question mark. That's great. That's great. So that was Human's Love from Hua Chen Yu, track number 9 off of this album. A song about struggling and growing within the context of romantic love. Human love can involve patience, compromise, and even giving up part of ourselves. Thank you to Love from Mars. Thank you to Love from Mars for helping me figure this stuff out. I appreciate it. As well as to everyone else who's helped me figure stuff out today. What I think this track's about, we'll discuss that. It's complicated philosophical stuff that I think if you understand the language natively, it hits harder. But I have read a little bit of Hua Chen Yu stuff, and it's also very poetic. So to be fair, there's a chance that if I read it, I might not get it anyway. Glad to hear y'all approve of the sound design. Vijandra V and Chin Chin Jung, Maria and Vijandra V. Chin Chin Jung loves the violin and piano. And Matt just loves the song so much. So everyone's pretty happy with it. It's a wonderful piece. It's great to hear Hua Chen Yu I suppose continue to explore their vocal range, commit to great vocal technique, and sing in a way that makes sense with the instrumental backing. And I feel like a lot of the comments from Hua Chen Yu in regards to their vocals are basically very similar now. I think going from like the straight 4/4 of the tempo piano parts into the waltz like triplet feel of the chorus with the piano parts is a tricky thing to do, but we're already so competent that I'm not surprised we're handling it. Um, so what else do I want to say about it? I think, yeah, interesting melodies that sort of work really well with what's going on with the piano, the strings, all the other common elements. And I feel like a lot equally the power of this piece comes from the instrumental backing. So if we go from the start with like the really kind of accessible, pretty sounding piano sort of idea there. And you do have either string plucks or like lower notes on the piano. I'm not sure which. He might be dampening the left hand or something like that. But either way, I think it's very effective to have a bit of low end resonance occasionally just to help things bounce a little bit, to add a sense that there will be more to come. But it's also like knowing that like there is so much space within this that we're not trying to rush our way through the track either. We're allowing time for things to simmer, to adjust. And I think that's really clever because in some tracks we have absolutely not allowed time for things to sit. And here I think Hua Chen Yu pondering these things, it just makes sense. So it's great that there's range there. But I want to sort of like comment on, again, there's the sound design that we were talking about. There's little kind of whistly kind of string, sort of like filtered, affected stuff that goes from the sides. Like the thoughts going around the background, going backwards and forwards and stuff like that. And I think that's really neat just because it's not just that we have a compelling idea on the piano as well as everything else. It's not just that we have compelling sort of core elements, but we allow the sound design to develop it and accentuate it further. Kind of like some of the Foley stuff that we had in Ship of Theseus. It's just alternative ways to make it bigger. It's great. And like throughout these parts, we have the extensions on the keys. We have these really sweet sounding harmonies in the hook section, the way we sort of like are in love dancing together. I appreciate when it speeds up. It just gets a lot quicker. And it's like two lovers together, kind of getting quick, like dancing the waltz of life and having their own moment before Hua Chen Yu brings things back and continues. I think it almost implicates as well that love can be incredibly short, and that's important to dance the best way that you can with the person that you love. And that gets me a little bit. Like that makes me feel quite emotional. I wasn't expecting that, but to have that represented and just that speed up of the way that the strings and kind of go through the almost Parisian kind of feel to it, with the keys keeping up everything, because kind of rushing forward and it just kind of stops and we go back down. It's wonderful. It's persona. It's music. It's what music is meant to do. Music is supposed to give you hints and clues and to help you further understand the story. That kind of goes up, up. And it's sad because in a way, I think Hua Chen Yu is almost kind of mourning the fact that he might not have that love anymore, or that he did have that love and it's not there anymore. And it's just how life is, man. It's so brutal. It's so brutal at times, but I think in a way, Hua Chen Yu has created the song to celebrate the fact that we've had that love at all. And it's transcendent. And I don't hear a lot of music like it. I'm glad that I've heard that today. So thank you Like, this would arguably be one of my favorite tracks off of the album, in part because of little bits like that that just kind of make it transcendent. So, with the fact that the structure of it is incredibly organic and it's just so heartfelt, you have the complexity of love illustrated within the extended harmonies. You have these pianos and strings and other elements kind of coming together in a way that's very beautiful and romantic. And we are when the piano is starting at the start, it's like knowing that there are little pauses and moments for Hua Chen Yu to think before they go forward is just it's just so real, you know? It's not premeditated or like it's just you can just tell that they're thinking about it as they play. And it's just really cool. So I think thematically it's representing the scene of two people in love and going through that. And yeah. Sounds like I wasn't too far off in terms of what you all think about it as well. So that's good to know. Thank you very much. And thank you to Love From. Thank you for the super. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's very kind. Studio production, recording, mixing, and mastering. All that production stuff is handled eloquently, as per the rest of the album. It's very raw, having Hua Chen Yu on the keys. Everything is just sort of captured so wonderfully. There is a magic to it. There's a humanity to it. And there's no issues whatsoever in regards to the EQing, the filtering, the layering, or anything like that. Everything is handled really well. It's got dynamic range. There are pauses. It's beautiful. That was track number 9, Humans Love. A lot of people find it hard to remember the melody of the song, especially the verse part. Yeah, it's tricky. Some songs, I think you almost get lost in the music, and it can be difficult to differentiate the person from it who's singing it. But I feel like Hua Chen Yu is in a position where they know how to both be a part of the song and to not be as in front of it. And then they know when to be on top of it, you know? And I appreciate that. I like that they know when to take a step back, allow the instruments to come forward. And I appreciate that they know when they need to be on that stage. This song makes me think about whether they all are part of that person where people say they like someone. Yeah, honestly, that's a really good point, Iris. I think it's a really good thing to think about, right? Do you love the person for who they are, or who you think they are, or who you think they should be, or who you think they can be? That's it. I think that this is just really interesting stuff to think about. And it's just really clever because I don't know about you guys. I don't hear a lot of music that makes me think like this. I get lost in the emotion of both the lyrics and how he sings them. He just draws me in with his vocals and emotional intelligence every time. Yeah, the emotional intelligence is definitely a thing in this album that I appreciate. It's very much a dramatic performance, but it's done in a way where it's very classy and it doesn't seem overdone. There are parts where, just before we move on, because I know I've got one more track to do, just the fact, it's just the way he holds on to some of those words and he leaps forward and he kind of almost sounds like he's going through the things that he's discussing. And it's just very incredibly expressive. Thank you, Barbara. I appreciate that. Usually I do access the subtitles and stuff like that. Well, actually, no, to be fair, I haven't done one of these in a while. I would do that usually, but I found that when I would look through the subtitles and stuff, I wouldn't get like a good understanding of it, or the subtitles might not be sort of translated correctly. So that's why I've kind of been asking people today if we can if you can help me figure out what the track is about. Because I can just kind of look at what you're sort of saying and go, oh, okay, I understand how that ties in. That makes sense. Especially if there's poetry as well. If there's poetry, I usually take a bit more time to sort of figure it out, and then that makes the live streams even longer than they are. So yeah, but I do feel like it's definitely worth checking that out on my own time. I think I have a phenomenal experience either way, and again, I want to thank people who have helped me out with what the songs are about today. Genuinely, thank you for helping me to understand this music better. And good on you for having places for people to go find the English subs, because it's not always easy to find them. Not always easy. We got one more track. One more track. In the Morning Light, There Is You, track number 10. What are we going to do for the last song on the album?
晨曦拥抱这座城，指引着赶路的旅人，给世界留下一抹温存。幸福恰好决定与自己相认。听河流轻声在哼唱，淡水的繁星也渴望。路过这最平凡的日常，将爱掌心传递，随生命绽放。守护天空，吹散飓风，在缤纷世界梦游。我想化作一棵树，陪伴山峰。未来多辽阔，鲜花永不会掉落。
It's an interesting song because I've just realized there are lyrics. So I'll give you them just to kind of have a quick read over if you sort of want to follow along to stuff. But it's again, it's sort of very somber tone with the keys, but almost like in a peaceful way. It seems like it's being very sort of gentle and attentive, you know? Oh, nice string flutters. And back to the harp.
吹散飓风，在缤纷世界梦游。我想化作一棵树，陪伴山峰。未来多辽阔，鲜花永不会凋落。摆脱生活的枷锁，就算被命运捉弄，在这晨光中做几场不落幕的美梦，让倒映在你眼底那束光陪着我吧。
But you can actually hear the piano, like the sound of the pedals as well. Oh, that was a nice way to end the album. That was a nice way to end the album. We're resolved to the major. Everything worked out in the end. Beautiful morning. So that was In the Morning Light, There's You. Apparently this is a song written for Martians. It conveys Hua's gratitude towards how we have accompanied and protected each other in the past decade. We've become each other's light, guiding us through life's difficulties. Hua's Chinese name literally means morning light. That's crazy. That's wild. And you're welcome, Leo. Thanks to all of you for coming along to this live stream. So I'm going to talk about this track, then give an overall conclusion, and then we'll probably be done for today. But I just want to say before we go any further, this has been a genuinely cool album to check out. It's been really good. Hua had a chance encounter with a lot of Martians after a concert and was so touched at how Martians treated him that he went back to his hotel after and changed some of the lyrics. Beautiful. It's beautiful stuff. That humanity there, that connection. So now that we know what the track is about, how is it sung? You're welcome, Vajandra. Thank you for coming along. I appreciate it. What was this saying? I think the sing was great. We had almost like whoa, whoa. It was kind of cool how we fluctuated and went between those notes, and then went into the upper voice and sounded angelic with the harmonies. There was almost a sense of innocence with some of the phrasings of those hook and verse parts there, in a way which was kind of light-hearted but appreciated. That was the kind of tone you got from the chord choices there, mixed with the expression from Hua's singing. I mean, like, it's kind of like minor-oriented here. There's some darkness to it, almost like, I'm not sure necessarily what specifically they're talking about here, but it indicates maybe that things have been tough sometimes. The third harmonies, the intervals there are gorgeous. They are gorgeous. They're done in a way which is very sweet, and that's something that's carried through a lot of these tracks. It's something that's carried through a lot of these tracks, to be fair. Yeah, again, so we like start with the major, then we go to the minor after with the harmonies, and we kind of loop back on that a few times. So I think structurally the song is a bit more straightforward than others, but it's done in a way where I don't think it's trying to sort of like, it's trying to sort of pay homage to previous parts. But like, it's like full of life with when the drums come in a bit later on, the drums kind of become a bit more sort of like present in like the 2-minute mark or something in that second chorus. And they've got some interesting 8th and 16th note grooves that they do there that kind of chop and change the bass line supportive in that low end, either 808s or electrics, but not in a way that sort of carries the mood forward, with the piano being the focal point for a lot of it. the piano being a ground bed and foundation for quite a lot of it, to be honest.
刻才显得动人。云着落，在这晨光中做几场最柔。
I mean, like, that's hard. That's intense. Like, there is a lot going on in regards to the shuffling of those different kick and snare patterns within that drum part. And then you've also got those really subtle guitar leads with the distortion on the right, kind of making it a bit more sort of grandiose and epic, with the strings doing flurries and flutters over top on the sides there to kind of add a sense of magic to it. And it just builds and builds and builds like a lot of other tracks within the album as well.
摆脱生活的枷锁，就算被命运。
And you can kind of hear there's some interesting inflections vocally, but also the bass line underneath kind of walking around and articulating certain parts of the scales. And these are very similar comments to what I have overall. But yeah, like there's a lot of sort of similarities between some of these tracks.
我把
But it's just nice to have that build as per previous tracks, but to have time at the end for Hua Chen Yu to sort of speak their truth with the piano, but just him and the piano, but in a way that ends positively with that, with a resolution harmonically at the end, with that major arpeggio going across a couple of octaves. It was good. I see you're welcome, guys. Thank you for coming along to this live stream. This review of this album from Hua Chen Yu. It's really cool. Really cool music. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad we did it. I think that this song, just with the use of chords and keys and stuff like that, sort of highlights that regardless of what you've gone through, Hua Chen Yu is trying to let you know that it's okay and that you'll get through it together. Even if there's those minor orients and some of the sort of midsections there, the gentle build up, the bit of kind of energy and intensity, it never gets too heavy and it finishes neatly. So yeah, basically that's it. Thematically, very clean, nice and pretty and balladesque, and it suits the vibe and it's a nice finish to the album. Studio production, recording, mixing, and mastering is commercial grade as per the rest of the tracks on the album there. I think starting quietly, allowing for dynamic range was neat. It communicates to you that we're going to have a bit more of maybe a serious conversation, but it kind of never becomes too much, you know, never becomes too much. So yeah, I think my overall thoughts on the album. You're welcome, Glingard. It's all good. Thank you to everyone. Overall thoughts on the album. I think this album was about more philosophical discussions that Hua Chen Yu wanted to have. There were also there was an esports song for his esports team. There was a tribute to the One Piece thing that was also about the ship getting its parts replaced and whether we're the same afterwards. So I feel like Quantitative Change Tipping Point was more just a mature exploration of those philosophical parts through music. Vocally, we were very, very comfortable across our entire head and chest voice. We explored falsetto and mixed voice really well. There were some rapping parts. There were some rock vocals with a bit of vocal fry and stuff like that as well occasionally. We knew when to be tender. We knew when to get a bit heavier without it ever being too much. And we had wonderful harmonies, both with Hua Chen Yu as well as other people in like the third track as well, which were really dope. And we also did a bit of vocal modulation occasionally, which allowed us to sort of switch things up. And yeah, the vocals were one of the highlights. But also, in general, across this album, instrumentally, with these being really long tracks, I never felt like they were ever too much or there was ever any filler. We understood how to split. With longer tracks, we split the verse sections up with little kind of, either like there were Foley bits or there were little kind of interesting sounds in the vocals. Or maybe like there was a piano or a violin part that kind of switched things up. And then we came back into that main verse. And so the tracks were longer because of the way it was structured, but in a way that never felt sort of like too played out or kind of over too much. So with the structure out of the way, there were so many instruments within this. Like pianos, drums, bass, guitars, violins, keys, synths, harps, the orchestral drums and cymbals and all that kind of stuff, woodwinds and certain elements as well. It shows that Hua Chen Yu and everyone else involved really understand how to arrange and compose songs in a way where not only did I choose instruments which are appropriate for the stuff that they're discussing, they know how to pick instruments and textures that have sound stylistically appropriate but also suit the measure of the vocals. And they also know how to they're fundamentals of rhythm down. They know their sort of quarters, eighths, triplets, and sixteenths. They know how to do key changes as well as work within the sort of key signatures of like the correct scale mode shapes and stuff like that. Like the lead melodies, if there were lead and melodies, never were trying to be over top of Hua Chen Yu because they were the main focal point. But Hua Chen Yu would step back and allow there to be string or piano parts just accompaniment. There's space. Sometimes in like the I think it was Human's Love that we just Hua Chen Yu stepped back and the strings took over and just they went in that direction. Other times, and this like the fourth track, there's just an entire minute of like instrumental parts with like strings and brass and like the electronic drums and stuff like that. And it just we understand when not to overstep, and I love that, and I'm really thankful for that. It sounds like you guys. I hope you guys sleep well after this. Hopefully you guys have a good sleep or have a fantastic day or a fantastic morning or something like that. And hopefully you guys are all good. Thank you for staying up watching this. I appreciate it was late for some of you. I appreciate you being here. The instrumental performances themselves were phenomenal. No complaints about that at all. They were on par with what Hua Chen Yu was doing. Thematically, a wide range of different themes that were specifically related to the stuff that we were discussing. I feel like a lot of the highlights from different instrumental parts I've talked about within the individual tracks themselves, so to iterate would be a very long conclusion. I know it's already been a very long live stream. But I didn't find any faults whatsoever at any points. I feel like they're all sensible, good decisions. And even when there are parts where I felt like, for example, there could have been like a heavier guitar or something like that, I think the lead decisions we made, having clean guitars, for example, with this sort of stuff was great. We knew how to balance equilibrium and tone. And none of the themes felt alien to what was being discussed within the lyrics or what I understood of them. And the studio recording, mixing, and mastering just overall was just fantastic. It's just really, it's commercial grade. I feel like they're a major label artist, and yeah, it's not an album where like everything is necessarily obviously interconnected, but it's an album where there are these different angles, and Hua Chen Yu wanted to explore them, and they did. And people enjoyed the music, and I enjoyed the music, and hopefully you did too. Because this is my review of this album from an act named Hua Chen Yu titled Quantitative Change Tipping Point. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy this, please do go check out Hua Chen Yu's various social medias and their Spotify page. And stay cool, stay safe. Please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I will catch y'all in the next live stream. I don't know when we're going to hit the next subscriber milestone. The next album live stream will be at 16,000. I don't know when we'll get there, but if we do, we might be able to do another Hua Chen Yu album. If we don't do it, then it'll be at 17. But either way, thanks for coming in. It's great to hang out with you all. Thank you for your help with understanding the music, and I'll catch you next time. Spiderhands out. Sleep well. All the best for the day ahead. 3, 2, 1.